All right, welcome everyone to another episode of the Maindeck Podcast. This is the podcast for and by trading card game players. I'm your host, Dan Green, and today I am joined by my co-host, Kevin Kerrigan.
Howdy, everyone. How's it going? Good to be back.
Yeah, I love having you on here, Kevin, because you have always some just very different viewpoints than I'm used to, and I love just to be able to introduce it to people. And I think today we're really going to highlight some of those differences, and that's going to be really fun, I think, for people to listen to.
So too.
So today, the topic of the episode is the future of universes. So I have to set this up a little bit. Universus, for people who aren't aware, is the current name of the game. It came out. I should really have the number in front of me. It came out around a decade ago, a little more, I think. UFS
2004, I believe.
2004. Never mind. Boy, that was a bad guess on my part.
Well, might be wrong, but it's around there somewhere.
Yeah, time sure flies, huh? It's crazy.
Oof, tell me about it.
Universal Fighting System, UFS, came out back then. Launched with the Penny Arcade set out of like nowhere, super strange. And I actually did some looking at this. That was like the first or second year or something of the Penny Arcade Expo. And it was like the big thing that they were selling down there or something. And then launched into fighting games and was like very fighting game exclusive as far as the property it used for many years. And just in 2019, rebranded to Universus, has introduced some other video games and anime into it since then, and is currently known by most people as the My Hero Academia card game. By the majority of people, I should say, just know it as that. And I still surprise people when I tell them, hey, did you know My Hero's been around for, the card game's been around for like over a decade? Like it just came out. Like it's not very well known. So I always feel like I have to introduce that when we're talking about that. Because it's gone through all these name changes, and just like we have, I guess this is our third name. But yeah, we'll be talking about that very soon. We have some interesting thoughts about what sort of the future of IPs and licenses. We're going to be purely speculating, by the way. There's no, if you're here looking for insider info, we don't have it. But a lot of just that fun content creator speculation is what we're going to be doing. So we hope you guys enjoyed that one. Before we jump into that, though, we are going to do our usual banter, little chat about what we've been playing lately in the trading card game and trading card game related world. So Kevin, it's been a while since I've gotten to really talk to you. So why don't you tell me, what have you been up to?
Well, as far as card games go, a couple of cool things have actually happened recently. I just got in a couple of weeks ago. I pre-ordered some, for those who don't know, HoloLive, the VTuber scene, things like that. I pre-ordered some accessories from Bushiroad for Weiss Schwarz, and they finally came in a couple weeks ago. I was able to get a deck box, some sleeves, a mat, and a binder with all my favorite VTubers on it. So I was really happy to get that in. That's
awesome. Let me. I don't know if I ever caught this on from you, because the Weiss Schwarz HoloLive set came out in May or June or something. And did you end up getting product from that? And how'd your polls go?
My girlfriend and I got like half a case between the two of us. We went ham on it.
Nice.
Because we're both down the rabbit hole and have been for a long time as far as VTubers go. And we actually pulled some pretty good cards. We got a couple SPs. We got one SSP. We didn't get any like the big holy crap, you're going to sell these for $500 cards, but we got some nice ones, and we definitely want to get some more in the future, try to round out our collection a little bit more.
That's awesome. Have you played Weiss?
No.
Okay,
that's the thing with Weiss. It's a very collector heavy game. The joke is that nobody plays Weiss; everyone just collects it. And I did the same thing with JoJo Golden Wind when that came out in 22, and I'm doing the same thing with HoloLive. The difference is that I do have more of an incentive to actually learn how to play with HoloLive. Yeah,
the thing about Weiss that's always, you're not wrong at all. You hear people all the time who just collect, and what they do is they put out some brilliant collector things that you see this. If you're a fan of any of the animes, any of the property, not just animes now, because I've been tempted to buy some of the Star Wars stuff because I'm such a big Star Wars fan.
Yeah,
but that's Japan only.
Yeah, the Japan only sets, like they've got like Disney and like Toy Story and Pixar.
I
sets
saw
over
that.
here.
I just saw those
It's
like teasing
wild.
that, like it was like Pixar greatest hits or something with like
Mhm.
shots from like Toy Story 3 and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a Marvel set over in
Mhm.
Japan. I don't know how we don't have that. It doesn't make any sense because I would love for that to come
Mm.
over here.
I think it's completely a licensing thing.
It has to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, I assume that there is some sort of. I mean, yeah, I'm not a legal expert. I don't know how any of this stuff really works. I just know how I've heard things work in the past, and all I can do is really speculate that there's some terms that were created for how trading cards and or trading card games, and they could be lumped into the same thing. They could be separate. It always
Mhm.
depends. But I know like Cool Mini or Not is a company that has had access to like board games based on Marvel franchises, and they've been licensing through there. And I don't know what kind of exclusivity agreement they have, but they've been doing that. But Fantasy Flight Games, still in the board game world, has been producing the Marvel Champions LCG. And I don't think it's a stretch to guess that as long as that is currently being produced, they can't produce another trading card game because it's a card game, and they might just be like using that as their
Domestically, yeah. Anyway.
yeah, domestically, right. But then Japan could just
Mhm.
like it's always the case. It seems that Japan can just kind of do whatever they want. Well, well,
Exactly.
the U.S. is stuck with the agreements they have. So
Yeah. That's always been a thing with Weiss where it's like when a new set gets announced, like, is it going to be America too? Is it Japan only?
yeah,
Like just recently at Anime Expo, they announced that they're coming out with a Chainsaw Man set. And for anyone who hasn't read that manga, there's an anime coming out very soon. That's going to be like the next big hot thing.
hmm
'Cause I've been reading the manga for quite some time, and it's one of my favorite series currently. That is confirmed to come to America. And a friend of mine was actually able to send me from Anime Expo the promo from there and 2 of the One Piece promo packs. So shout outs to my friend Jimmy on Twitter for doing that.
nice one, Jimmy. Well done. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, that sounds cool. I haven't read Chainsaw Man or anything, but wake me up when there's a Spy Family Weiss set. Then I'm that's
Oh yeah.
gonna get
That
me.
that Anya SSP is gonna go for buku bucks.
Yeah, it's so she's just so wholesome and cute. It's you can't. Hey,
If
if you're
if you
a
don't love Anya, I don't trust you. Like I don't want to be in the room alone with you, right? There's something wrong with you.
this is if anyone listening to this for some reason still hasn't watched Spy Family, just stop, turn it off, go watch it. I don't. That's cool.
Yeah.
Come back later. That's fine. But man, it's
We'll still be here.
yeah, we will. It'd be right here on YouTube. No problem. Yeah, that sounds really fun though. I'm really excited for you and your new HoloLive swag, and maybe you can actually try the game one time and then report what you think. That'd be kind of fun.
Exactly. Well, right now my HoloLive sleeves are on my Wecross deck, so it's like the waifu streams are crossing.
Nice.
And then I told you last night, actually, I finally got an email from UPS saying that my Street Fighter Secret Lair is coming in tomorrow. And I'm so excited for that. I can't wait to build my Ken Commander deck.
That's awesome. So yeah, Magic the Gathering, by the way, got to make sure people are aware when we're jumping around. You actually got your Secret Lair shipped to you before me. I just got the notification today that a tracking number was created. So I'm patiently awaiting that too. I did get in the other day my my sorry for the inconvenience 2 Neon Dynasty collector boosters, because I had ordered the Commander deck Secret Lair that's like a flip a coin based. It was an entire Commander deck in a Secret Lair. It was like $100 for the whole deck, which is not unreasonable at all, considering there's a bunch of like exclusive art foils and stuff in there. And it's, I'm just going to probably sleeve it up and maybe tweak it a little bit and just have it in my pool of decks I can play. Which I'm sure is a common thing that people are doing. But I heard that was like the Secret Lair before the one that's currently being shipped. And it's still
now it's Futnut, I think.
Yeah, the Fortnite one right now. That's, you know what? Let's talk about that in just a second. Actually, that sounds fun. I don't know what other medium I'm going to use to talk about that. So let's talk about it here. But I just want to say for people before I lose track of this Commander deck Secret Lair was, I mean, months and months ago. It was the rest of the Secret Lairs from that super drop already shipped. And this one, there's still not even a shipping notification or anything coming. So they sent out these, to their credit, to Wizards' credit, absolutely. They sent everyone who ordered that Commander deck 2 Kamigawa Neon Dynasty collector boosters.
That's nice.
Which is, MSRP, that's like $40, which is like, pretty cool. I was so excited. I opened mine and I got the worst, just total junk.
Oh man, you shouldn't have even bothered.
yeah. But you know what? Because there could have been a neon ink Hidetsugu in there. There could have been an etched foil Wandering Emperor or something. So, I had to give it a go.
Be in the mystery box, Lois.
It could have even been a mystery box inside there. But anyway, it's still, I understand that commander deck thing was like too good to be true, because they're just used to shipping these like 6 card sets at most, right? And then they're like, and then we're gonna produce on demand 100 card commander decks and have exclusive art and foiling and stuff, and like it was like, yeah, of course this is just like, unless they had everything really super ready for this infrastructure for this print on demand thing. Yeah, that's right. That's a magnitude more cards that need to be printed for that. So we'll get it someday, but Yeah.
I remember I messaged you about a week and a half ago. I was like, are Secret Lairs supposed to take this long? And you're like, yes.
They do.
I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, they take forever.
I'm actually surprised it came out as soon as it did then. I wasn't expecting it for at least another month or so.
It's like Kickstarter. Just buy it and then forget about it. And then you'll have like a fun present one day. So
there you go.
So speaking of that, Fortnite, speaking of supply drops and stuff.
Oh God.
Okay. I'm gonna preface this with so there's a Fortnite Secret Lair drop, right? Just get that out of the way. It is the kind of drop where they printed the cards with like original Fortnite names and art and stuff. And then they have underneath the card names the original card that is being printed. So it's not like they printed like Jace the Mind Sculptor and then just slapped like a Fortnite picture on him. They would have called him Banana Man and then put Jace the Mind Sculptor underneath and then slapped a Fortnite picture on him, right? So it's slightly more thematic than but it's not quite as thematic as like we made Ken from Street Fighter, and then that's just the end of it, and which is the highest level of theme that they can do when they're doing these kind of universes beyond crossovers. So I want to say that I have said in the past, and I'm sticking to my guns here. I think these kinds of things are great for the game, as in my opinion. I understand there's a lot of people who are out there who are like, I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to see it in my game. I get that. Like, I get it. It's with Fortnite. I totally understand. With Walking Dead, that was me too. I saw it and was like, these are really cool cards. I'm not going to ever own one of these. I don't want, even though like they want some of the cards for their effects, I just don't want it in my game. But
I don't want to see them.
but on the other hand, if someone likes them and plays them, I'm just going to use it as an opportunity to like take out my anger by like using a kill spell on one of their Walking Dead guys. Be like, did this happen in the show? Or whatever.
Is this canon?
Is this canon? Exactly. But I think they're good for the game because any chance that Magic has to continue its outreach to get people interested in the game who wouldn't have been before, and I think I've seen people who are like, well, if they didn't like it before, they're not going to like it because of this. Kevin's here is proof that as all they have to do is print a Fist of the North Star Art Ninja and then print some Street Fighter stuff. And then Kevin's a Magic player.
I'm back in, baby. 10, 15 years after the fact, but I'm back.
Yeah. And I think that's great. Like, I love that people can just find something that resonates with them as long as they can make it fit into the Magic framework. I think that's really cool.
It's one of those things where because they're not, mechanically unique, they're, essentially alt arts. If you don't like it, you don't have to buy it. There's no, trying to think of the right word. You don't have to buy these. You can skip this and then maybe the next one you'll like, I don't care about Fortnite, but if the next one's like Transformers or something, heck yeah, I'm going to be into that. Right. I'm excited for when Warhammer and Lord of the Rings come out. So, you can pick and choose. You don't have to buy it if you don't want to. I think that argument fell apart initially when they introduced the Walking Dead thing, and I was actually very, very critical of that as well, because they had no plan for any like in-universe versions of these cards. But since then, we saw they took the Stranger Things Secret Lair and then they printed Innistrad themed versions, which was perfect theming thematically to take the Stranger Things universe and put it on the horror themed plane. They printed completely in Magic
multiverse versions of all of those cards. And to be honest, I own the Secret Lair for Stranger Things, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, I don't want to play these. I want the Magic version. I think those are cool. I like Innistrad a ton. So the one time I've slotted one of those in the deck, I bought the Magic one because I liked it more.
Nice.
But yeah, so like,
exactly.
I think it is what it is exactly right. And they're putting out, they're trying now to put out alternate versions, actual in-universe Magic versions of the ones that are made to be, Ken and Ryu and everything. They'll have some too, I'm sure, pretty soon.
It's going to be fun to see. And you know what? I'll get those just because I like the Street Fighter characters. So I think it'll be cool to have the Magic versions of those too. They'll look cool next to each other in a binder.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's more to collect, right? And that's what a lot of people just like. So that's pretty cool. That said, Fortnite, I'm skipping. Personally, it's actually, I think the art is really well done. Like if you've looked at the art on the cards, it looks really, it looks just like it's out of Fortnite without looking like it's a screenshot of Fortnite. If you understand what I mean. And
I know what you mean. The art style makes sense.
Yeah. And that's really cool. So I think they actually like nailed it as far as like doing the Fortnite crossover. I just don't care about it at all personally, but it's awesome if you do.
And then I only have one other thing on my list, just so we don't go too long, is that tomorrow, actually, at my locals, again, shout out to Time Twister Games, the next Wixoss set is coming out. And I am very excited about this set in particular, because this is the 5th set of the game so far coming out in America. And this is where we start getting a lot of cards to really expand deck building. So those who don't know, Wixoss, you build teams of 3 characters, right? Your leader card and your 2 assist cards. And up until now, there was really no incentive to break the teams, because the cards that were made for them were so good and were required to have the specific teams. Now we're starting to get a lot of team breaking cards where you can say, I just want to put 3 blue cards together or 3 red cards together, regardless if they're in the same team. And the new team of divas that are coming out, DXM, are some of my favorites, and they're like super heavy aggro, which is what I love. So it's one of those sets that's kind of really like breaking open the deck diversity of the game, and I'm really excited to see where it goes.
So this is kind of like when they first introduced gold cards in Magic or something, and they like suddenly they give you a reason to like branch out from kind of what just made sense to do, before that. Some payoff for doing that.
And what's super cool about this set is, just like I've said before in the past, starter decks in Wixoss have play sets of every card in them. So you only have to buy 1 starter deck. The new starter deck that's coming out for DXM is the same thing. 1 deck, 4 copies of everything, but they're all foil. So they cost a little bit more than a regular starter deck, but they look so nice.
I mean, I'm a sucker. I'll always pay extra for the premiums. So I would definitely do that. I still haven't gotten to give Wixoss a shot, and I intend to. I really intend to at some point, actually, at Gen Con. When we're releasing this, either the week of or right before Gen Con here. But when I'm at Gen Con, I intend to look around and see. I posted on one of their Facebooks, like, are you guys going to be at Gen Con? And I didn't get anything back. So I don't know if anyone's going to be there, like running Wixoss demos. If I see 2 starter decks though, I might just grab them and take one of our group and be like, hey, we're going to play this right now. I got to figure this out.
And my spirit will be watching from above, like, yes, like Mufasa in the clouds.
I'm excited to try it. It's thematically, it's a little out of my usual. It's
super weeby. You can say it.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the right way to say it, but it is fairly weeby. And that's not always exactly what I'm into, but at the same time, it looks like an interesting and cool game. I watched shout out to Red Zone Rogue. I watched Red Zone Rogue's How to Play. If I remember when I'm posting this on YouTube, I'll link that in the description below. You can check and see if I forgot like an idiot or remembered if you check the description here. And he did a really great job just kind of showing how all the basic mechanics worked and everything. And I thought that it looked pretty dope. So I definitely want to give it a shot. And then I was extremely drawn in this set when I saw that there was, so my favorite thing that Japan does is taking absolutely anything they can think of and turning it into a girl. I think that's
They will waifu anything. There is literally a card in this set
This
that is a waifu version of the Notre Dame castle.
Yes, absolutely. 1200s French cathedral as a girl. Like, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you? That should just be like, well, I'm surprised it took this long. It took like 800 years to do that. What the hell?
Listen, Hololive was able to waifu water. Anything is possible.
That's so funny. Yeah. So as soon as I saw it, I was like, man, I got to check this out because this is just getting off the chain. It's getting too wild and I got to be part of it. Yeah, that's really cool though. And have you been playing it all since that online event that you did?
Oh yeah, you try and make it out to my locals every Saturday.
That's awesome.
And we're thinking about pivoting to maybe once a month because usually with the weeklies, it's only like 3 or 4 people. So we figure if maybe we make it once a month, we can kind of get everyone together at the same time, give all the promos away at once.
That's always the challenge. Yeah. When you have a smaller group, sometimes it's better to space it out. We're like in our area right now is we just finally got My Hero off the ground after like everyone kind of finished reeling from the pandemic. Right. And so we kind of got, I basically said to a group, all right, guys, I'm starting playing. Then like a couple people started trickling back and now we're going to start doing some like how to play stuff and get some more people into it finally. But we're currently on every other week because, it's just like this kind of core group right now. And people get worn out when there's, when it's like everyone needs to attend in order for it to be like a proper event. And that's always just one of the struggles of smaller card games. Speaking of which, I'm going to use this for a shameless plug. By the way, on Maindeck's Discord server, linked in the description below, we run Webcam Leagues every month for your favorite, possibly smaller card games that you might have trouble finding a group for. If you want to just turn on your webcam or I see people are like working their phones out to be webcams and stuff. There's some like cool apps you can download, whatever. You just come on here. If you don't even know what you're doing, you're just like, I just want to play, but how do I get set up? Join our Discord server, let us know, and then you can join our free leagues and play for prizes. I just whipped out the credit card and shipped out some more prizes today to people. I'm losing so much money on these, but everyone's having a great time. We love international audiences. We love just getting people because our leagues are awesome because they allow you to play anytime that you have time. This isn't you have to make time on a Saturday to come to this. This isn't like your weeklies where if you're not there, you don't get to play. You just join and then you start asking to play games and you record them and you might win prizes. So definitely check us out down there because what I love about it is just it's a great opportunity for people who have trouble getting a group together to play some of these games that are great, like My Hero and we haven't done a Wixoss League yet, but it's on my list. I would like to at some point. I got to get like hyped about it first, and then I'll put in the work to get it out there.
Right. Yeah, and I'll definitely help you with anything you need to for that if you want to help get it off the ground.
Oh, for sure. Don't worry, Kevin. I'm calling on you. Yeah. Do you have anything else to say about the next Wixoss set?
Other than the fact it looks really fun, there's a couple of really good super rare cards that are in this set that are going to hold their value. It's just, honestly, it sounds kind of silly because it's like the 5th set, but like this is actually a really good time to get in if you weren't in from like set 1 onwards, because the field is really opened up. And I have signed up for the webcam tournament on the 14th, which they originally had the date of Gen Con weekend. And I'm like, what are you doing? That's insane. Why are you doing that? But thankfully they listened to sense and changed it. So that's going to be really interesting because again, the field's so wide open. It's going to be fun to see what kind of decks do well in that event.
Tell me, Kevin, how's the power creep going in Wixoss for set 5? I mean, power creep's inevitable in every card game, but how's it feeling?
Right. To be honest, outside of a couple of teams like Sanbaka, which was only because like that was a group of VTubers and they just haven't been on any cards since that first set, there's obvious signs of power creep. There are like the most valuable SR in this set, the white card, I think her name is Eddie or something. She's insanely powerful. But compared to other card games, I really got to say that it's not as bad as it could be. Like the newer cards are obviously stronger. You're still going to use a lot of the older cards. A lot of the older cards are still good. And like my girlfriend, she plays Card Jockey. And that deck is like, it's one of those decks that's kind of like always good. and you're mostly just going to be swapping out certain like super rares and like key pieces for like the newer, gooder stuff that comes out. So it honestly really isn't that bad. I think it's, you know, basically every deck is playable to some degree. It's really hard for games of Wecross to be a total washout. Most games end with like 1 or 0 life left before the winner is declared.
Okay. Yeah, you know, I think one thing that people don't take into account when they start looking at a game's power creep, especially early on, is that a lot of the time games start out being designed one way with like certain, you know, every game designer sits down and they kind of have their boundaries. Okay, like a card for this cost should do this thing. And then this color is going to focus on this thing. And usually after 3 or 4 sets, and I can say from experience when we were helping develop the Metacross card game, it wasn't until set 4, set 3 kind of, but then set 4, which was then the last set for it, unfortunately, that we've like really like honed in. We're like, okay, now like we now understand what our actual, like we had an idea for what we were trying to do, but we didn't know what we should do, if that makes sense. And once you get a few sets in, you start to have already explored some of those boundaries and be like, you know what? This effect actually wasn't very strong. We thought it was reasonable, but given the context of the game and how it's kind of developed, it actually isn't very strong. So we need to pump up the power of those kinds of effects. And so you actually get this sort of like what looks like power creep in some ways on some of these early on in a game like this, but it's actually just like kind of balancing things appropriately when they were previously unbalanced. So things were unnecessarily powerless or were too powerful at the time, and you kind of rebalance them as you go. So do you see any of that maybe happening in this set, or is it just like straight up, nah, like that was fine before and now this is just like way better?
I do think you are right to some degree. I think the teams and like especially like like a Magic has their color chart of like these colors do this, they do these things really well. I think right now Wecross is really starting to understand like what red does well, what white does well, et cetera, et cetera. And I feel like because the game is technically based on an anime, there is a show, so they will use like same characters, you know, more than once, like the main cast and everything. And like they're always coming out with like, so if it's a team of 3, each of the 3 get their own leader version that's like in the center. So like even among the same team, there's like 3 different ways to play it. Like for No Limit, you can have Piranha as the center, Aquino, Ray, and the deck plays completely differently because that usually changes the color of your deck as well. So yeah, I think they're really starting to come into their own as an identity, even though again the game's been out in Japan for a while, but I think it's the same process that they were feeling over there that we're now getting over here, right?
Yeah, sure. Cool. Yeah.
It's coalescing more.
That coalescing is probably the right term. It's just everything starts to kind of come together eventually, and you start to realize what stuff's supposed to do and what's most fun, especially as another thing is like, because your game has to, the reason power creep happens a lot of the time is just the game has to be fun and exciting to play. So sometimes you need to be like, well, even though it was like more like fair to do it this way, we can just make this thing way more fun and then compensate with some other cards as well. And then people just like that more.
Right. And like another good thing is like all of the like basic gameplay types are viable. If you like aggro, there's an aggro deck for you. If you like control, there's a control deck for you. If you like mid-range, there's something for you to play, and they're all viable. At least right now.
That's always really good to hear. I want to talk about a game that I've been playing recently where I'm not sure how true that is.
Oh boy.
A little hot take. Actually, but it's going to start out sounding like a hot take, but I actually have a lot of praise. I've been playing Pokemon recently. And if you've been catching my streams, I've been on I couldn't stream last weekend because of a hardware failure. But prior to that, I was playing Pokemon on our Sunday, kind of a Sunday shake-up stream. And I'm going to be playing it again this weekend too, because I was having a lot of fun. And I didn't think I would like have as much. I thought it'd be like, you know, cool, entertaining, whatever. Like when I played GBA Yu-Gi-Oh, like, yeah, that was cute, whatever. But like, I actually liked it quite a bit. So Pokemon, if you're unfamiliar, you probably missed a whole lot of, like, you're not even sure why you're here and what you're watching right now if you're not familiar with the Pokemon card game. Pokemon card game has obviously been around for forever, and many people basically our entire generation, you and me, Kevin, played it when we were kids. There's like not a chance that you didn't at least own cards. Like you had some, like somebody gave you some at some point, or you were really hardcore and you were playing it and trying to be competitive and stuff. So Pokemon's interesting because when we were kids, the Pokemon card game, as Wizards was producing it, played. I mean, the rules haven't changed, but it played very differently than Pokemon does today. Kevin, you've played some Pokemon more recently, right?
Yes.
So like there's all these double prize Pokemon. They're V right now. They were like EX for a while or something. They're like level X at some point, and all sorts of weird ones. But but they're V right now, and then the V ones are like they give you 2 prizes, and they can evolve into V Max, which give 3 prizes, and V Star, which still only give 2 prizes, but they have a once per game ability on them. And I bring up this mechanic in particular because the game is so revolves so much around these Pokemon at this point. I mean, you can definitely play decks that don't play a lot of V or focus on them, but you're kind of hamstrung because they're good.
Yeah. Yeah, they have way more health than a regular Pokemon. Their attacks do way more damage.
Yeah, when you're playing like a normal evolution and then your opponent plays a V or a V Star, God forbid a V Max, it's gonna one shot you no matter what you try to do, and it's gonna sit there and it'll take multiple hits from your like fully pumped up thing to kill it. Generally speaking, don't come at me in the comments. There are exceptions for everything I'm saying.
Actually, yeah,
there's always exceptions, but the thing that is most different to me is like back when Wizards was producing it, you building a Pokemon deck was almost identical to building a Magic deck, except with like more Pot of Greed available because Bill was everywhere. But you played a fairly high amount of energy compared to what you play today. You played a bunch of evolutionary lines. You had to have like kind of outs to getting things because you had computer search. You had Professor Oak. You had ways to draw cards. And actually, things could be surprisingly a little more degenerate because nothing was a supporter at the time, which is limit 1 per turn.
Right. So you could just play them over and over again.
But they were also more reined in effects than what they are now. Bill is the supporter version of Bill, just printed in like gold and silver or something, is super outclassed now. Like you wouldn't even think about putting that in. It's like, why waste your time with that card?
It's funny when you look at Pokemon where it's like there's a card that says draw 3 cards, and in any other card game that would be like the most insanely broken. Oh my god, why isn't there this a 4 of in every deck? But in reality, it's like that card sucks.
Yeah, it's not that good.
It's a supporter, and you only draw 3 cards
because you can draw way more than that. So here's what I realized. This was my epiphany moment with Pokemon. I was looking at I had people in like Discord and stuff telling me, hey, you should play Pokemon. I was like, all right, I'll play Pokemon. Like, sounds good. I saw some people on Twitch who were streaming it and having a lot of fun, having a lot of people coming in and saying, I was like, yeah, like for my Shake Up Sunday, why don't I just fire up old PTCGO and play some Pokemon online? So I did. And then I before I did that, I started just watching a little bit and I noticed a resemblance. I posted about this on Facebook. I did get someone who took a little bit of offense to me saying this. So I want to be really careful when I say this time, because when I say this, it's completely a positive thing. It just will come off to different people differently because everyone's got their own takes on different card games and formats or whatever. Pokemon is like vintage Magic. And by that, I mean that in vintage Magic, everyone's effectively playing some sort of combo deck. And in Pokemon, I mean, this is where, so my initial kind of way to lead into this was about, I don't know if those are all things. You can definitely play decks that play at sort of different paces. But ultimately, Pokemon is built very much as a combo heavy game. Your interactions that are powerful are generally based on assembling some sort of Voltron of stuff on the board. Current decks that are good, the Mew single strike deck, or the Mew Fusion Strike deck, right now is just like exactly what I'm talking about. Is it a combo deck? I mean, it's not going like infinite combo, I win. but it's going like, okay, I want to have these things on my bench. I want to have Mew in play, and then Mew uses Genesec's ability, and then it does, because of all this stuff, it does 1 million damage to you. And that's a combo. The current popular budget deck is Rocks, Soul Rock, and Lunatones from Pokemon Go. Combo deck. That's a combo deck. You're just trying to put this combo out. And then I don't care that like your goal is to push out Lunatone and do damage. Doesn't mean it's not comboing somehow. There's just like different maybe degrees of combo that they go into.
Right. It's kind of similar in Yu-Gi-Oh! Kind of has that thing now where it's like, no matter what deck you're playing, to some degree, like whether you're playing floors or Sky Strikers, it's like most boards kind of end the same way. Baron, you get Baron to floor on the field, you set a Solemn, you set a couple other floodgates, you pass your turn. There are different steps to get there, but they all kind of end the same way. And Pokemon is very similar in that, like you were saying, the makeup of a Pokemon deck is very across the board for a lot of different decks. They all run a lot of the same cards. They're all going to run Professor's Research and Boss's Orders and, Quick Ball and thing like that. So, the path is the same, but your destination is where it diverts and what exactly the deck does, which is why Pokemon, I think, has more A-tier decks than pretty much any other card game, because obviously there's your S tiers that are like the best of the best, but they have so many decks in between that, like tier 1 and tier 2, that all do really well, which is why in big Pokemon tournaments, you'll see a lot of decks and you go, what is that? I've never seen that before. What do you mean that made top 8,
Yeah, that's so spot on. And you're hitting on exactly what I wanted to go into, which is as soon as I sort of realized, okay, so like everything's a flavor of combo in here. And then I started analyzing the deck list, and I realized these are built also exactly like you would build a vintage deck in Magic. And by that, I mean, our resource cards, our energies or lands are your goal in Pokemon is to minimize the amount of energy you have to put in your deck. Like when you're deck building, that's like, you want to have no more than and that's true in Magic, right? Like you're like, okay, how many energy or how many lands do I put in my deck? 24, 25, 26, whatever. Except it's just like in vintage Magic, instead of talking about numbers in the 20s, you're saying, can I go down to 6? Will I be okay if I go down to 6 energy in this deck or whatever?
And a lot can. My deck has 10 energy in it.
I'm playing one with 12 and like I'm on the high end for sure.
If you are, yeah.
And then the rest of the deck is just built up on how do I see as much of my deck as possible so I can assemble that thing. And if you take any Magic vintage deck, with maybe the exception, and some of the big vintage players might come in and be like, well, you can play like a Death and Taxes or something, like whatever. Like, again, I know there's exceptions, but you take just about any Magic vintage deck, you will see that it was built with the exact same kind of thought process in mind. The idea is I'm trying to minimize the amount of useless cards because I can only play 1 land a turn and the game's going to end on turn 2 or 3. So I don't need to have more than 2 land or I'm losing the game, So I don't ever want to see more than that many. So how can I see as many cards as possible? And as long as I'm like playing stuff like Ancestral Recall and I'm playing stuff like Time Twister and like have the ability to draw into and Pokemon's exactly the same way. It's obviously no surprise because Wizards made both systems back in the day. So it obviously was inspired heavily by Magic. So you can play 1 energy per turn. So how many energy do you want to see? Only the exact amount that you need to play in a game. And Pokemon games go a little longer than vintage. That's where like people probably thought I meant that like, oh, it's just like, just like a modern like Yu-Gi-Oh! High tier game where you just go like, there's that meme video where the person is playing like it's a meme, but it was literally a Yu-Gi-Oh! Like regional championship game or whatever, where the person just is like takes their hand and be like, you win, because they didn't have like the hand trapped to stop them.
I didn't draw Ash. You win.
Yeah, exactly. So and people probably thought I meant that about the game, which I don't at all. I just mean like in the most endearing and best way possible. Pokemon is like vintage. And I actually really like that because you can jump into a standard like game of a trading card game, and you can play as if you were playing a format in Magic that costs you just thousands and thousands of dollars to build a deck for.
One of the great things about Pokemon is because so many decks share that same card pool, it is very cheap to make a deck. Incredibly cheap.
And they make it so easy. Like
they're so good with reprints,
trainers toolkits, challenge decks. If there's a popular V or V Star or V Max card, if it doesn't already have a tin or a box set or something to get a guaranteed copies of it, it's coming in like a month or two or whatever. I just saw that they have the Palkia one coming soon. It comes with both Palkia and Palkia V Star. And there you go. That's like considered the top deck in Pokemon right now, the number one deck by a lot of people.
Right.
Yeah. So I've been having a ton of fun. Like it's actually really cool. Like I like to just sit down and combo, and that's fun.
And yeah, because I love Pokemon. I got into it, late last year, and I haven't been able to attend my locals as much because my work schedule changed. But I'm looking forward to when official tournaments start happening again, presumably after Worlds in London, which I think is next month, and we can start getting more, local events going. I'm looking forward to that because my girlfriend and I did get a lot of. We invested a lot into Go.
Yep. Yeah, Go. I mean, Go's what got me too because I just. I don't know what it is. You know what? I have no idea what it is other than Pokemon is still Pokemon. It's still, it's
that comfort thing that's always there, right? You look at Pokemon, you just have this sense of warmth inside of you. Like when you play a new game or you open a new pack, like it's always Pokemon.
I think Pokemon also does a really good job with their, with making their packs exciting to open, especially with the recent sets and the trainer gallery that they've been putting in them. Even when they're not worth a lot of money, those trainer gallery cards are some of the prettiest like art and cards that like you every 3 packs or so in Pokemon, you get like a banger basically. And it doesn't even matter like how valuable it is or whatever. You're like, oh man, that looks so cool. Like I love that. They're totally really fun to open. So Pokemon, if you are someone who, if you've not tried Pokemon, modern Pokemon, and you like the idea of, I had a game where on turn 1, I drew through half my deck. I drew literally 30 cards in that. I don't normally pay attention to the numbers, but I was doing a lot of stuff. I was like, whatever, like playing the balls, discarding cards, searching Pokemon, got down to just my last card was Crobat V, play Crobat V, draw up to 6, draw some more balls, draw Professor's Research. I was like going through everything. And then I looked at my deck and it's like, I literally went through half my deck in one turn and my hand is full of card draw still. And like, if that sounds fun to you, you got to try it. Like, because Pokemon lets you do that, where the other games are, we have to be all like reined in and careful about how many cards people draw or whatever.
If you like those kinds of games, and Lord knows I do love those kind of fast-paced games where it's like go. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, fun stuff. So that was my big thing to report. And because we've talked plenty about the banter here, I won't talk too much about other stuff. I mentioned I'm playing My Hero, but Gen Con, I'm going to be playing My Hero basically all weekend. So, hey, if you're at Gen Con, come say hi to me. I'll be at the Panini booth Thursday afternoon. I'll be working the Panini booth and teaching NFL 5 TCG to people. Come on down if you're at Gen Con, and I'll teach you how to play NFL 5 and say, hey, I saw you on the podcast, or I'm in the Maindeck Discord or whatever, and I'd love to say hi to you. That'd be really fun. Otherwise, you'll catch me at the MHA tables.
And if you're at Evo next week in Vegas, you can come say hi to me.
There we go.
I unfortunately won't be at, I say unfortunately, but I won't be at Gen Con this year, but I will be at Evo. It's always been such a struggle being a fighting game and a trading card game fan. Evo and Gen Con are always the same weekend. I hate it.
But Kevin, what an incredible segue you've given us. Fighting games versus trading card games, fighting games versus anime. Let's talk about Universus. Let's talk about My Hero Academia card game. Let's talk about what comes next. So I already gave the setup, right, for what Universus is. It was UFS, fighting games. It's kind of basically just My Hero Academia at this point. There's a few things we know about what's going on with it. First of all, shout out to Jasco Games. Before I jump into any of this, my thing I have to say is that none of this is intended to, if I say anything that you misconstrue as me hating on Jasco, I'm just assuring you've misconstrued it.
Absolutely. We love Jason. We love Tim. We love all those guys there.
Yeah. I mean, Jasco is a game that is a company that is always striving to just do right by the players. And do they make missteps? Every single company makes missteps. But Jasco, more so than most of the ones I see, go out of their way to fix it in the best way they can. Case in point, the recent redemption changes and promo legality changes that they just announced.
Yeah.
Where now
season other games that would do that.
I am going to name Dragon Ball Super as a game that releases these exclusive promos and then just says, well, good luck. And then you got to get them for your deck or whatever.
Deuces.
Yeah. Yep. Which is fine. Like that's, and that drives attendance to the events and everything. But I appreciate so much that Jasco just announced that season 3 promos are not legal until the end of the season 3 events, which is like, great, because I really wanted 4 Flamethrower for my Ochako 2 deck, because Ochako 2 with Flamethrower is going to be something gross that you don't want to deal with. Yeah. It's going to be nasty. But
girl keeps getting better.
I know. Of course she does. She's the best. So, so I just want to say that Jasco is awesome. They always try to make good choices of things. So nothing I say here is intended to disparage them in any way. I don't think we're going to, but I just feel like I have to make sure that's mentioned right out the gate. The thing that's going on with My Hero is that when we don't know everything, right? We don't know everything about what's happened behind the scenes and the deals and how things work with Funimation and Asmodee. And basically there's just like a lot of hands in the pot now. And so there's always going to be things that happen that are maybe like slightly out of people's, out of whoever you think should be in control of the situation. We know that when in 2019, Jasco announced Universus was the new name of the game. They released the Yu Yu Hakusho expansion, but that was still under the UFS name. They released the Libra of Souls, Soul Calibur 2 or Soul Calibur 6 Libra of Souls, expansion, still under the UFS label. Then they started releasing a bunch of DLC packages covering a variety of fighting games, covering Zenoscope's Grim Fairy Tales. That was really random, but cool. Covering Cowboy Bebop also. Those were all Universus card back, though. And then My Hero Academia is entirely Universus card back. So that's like the basic setup. We also know at some point they planned on releasing a Yu Yu Hakusho Dark Tournament set. And they said, and at the time, this is 2019. Obviously, the world changed after that. Who knows what the plans are now? It's impossible to say, unless you're someone.
Tournament looms. It keeps looming.
That was the name of the promo that they handed out as a teaser. But yeah, it's definitely taking its time looming right now. So all we know is that they have had some intentions to do things. So with all of that said, My Hero Academia finally launched after the whole pandemic delay. They had basically a year where nothing even came out because of that. Not their fault. Not their fault at all. Now My Hero's out. The game has never been as big as it is.
Not even close.
Not even a fragment of the current player base existed before. It's crazy. It's and from everything we can see, it's doing very well. It's picking up steam. They're finally getting their international release ducks in a row. It looks like they are getting set. 3 teasers are coming, and it hasn't even been 8 months yet or something. It's right. It's okay. Maybe a few things I said might come off as disparaging. Again, I love Jasco. There was just a lot of stuff that, a lot of stuff got in the way and they were getting everything figured out. And again, I think a big part of this is it is so much bigger now than it was. And when you're a company who was one size and now you're kind of producing for this whole other ball game, this whole other size, there's
big leagues now.
And like I said, all the hands in the pot and everything, there's just, it's tough to control everything like that. But it looks like things are getting pretty good. So the question is, at some point, either one, some kind of like mentioned in the past, but who knows if it's still active thing, exclusivity agreement might be over, right? Which is, we heard something about like 1 year of dedicated My Hero and then question marks. Whether or not that's still true, I don't know. Or at some point, My Hero's just going to be kind of done, right? Like we can't say it's going to be the My Hero Academia card game for 20 years, right? At some point, people are kind of done with it. And there's no reason in Universes for it to continue to be My Hero Academia. So the question is, what happens after that? Do we go back to fighting games? Do we just is it just My Hero? Is it just My Hero forever? And then we just close up shop when it's done? Do we Do we go back to the Dark Tournament, Yu Yu Hakusho?
Hmm.
Do we try and get another popular shonen? Do we get Demon Slayer? Do we get Chainsaw Man? I don't know how long this is going to take. Like, whatever. Kevin, what happens? You tell me.
Well, I feel like to talk about this, there's a few things you have to consider. And one of them is, like you said, the future of My Hero Academia as an IP. We already know that the series itself is winding down. By next year, the manga will more than likely wrap up. So, we're in set 3 now. So we're past the sports festival arc. There's still a good chunk of story to go. And it kind of reminds me of back when, Score was doing DBZ and they went in like saga order. And if you knew where the series was going, you're like, well, how many more sets do they have left, right? And they kind of cheated a little bit and extended with like the World Tournament arc and the Cell Games arc and all that kind of stuff. So there could be those kind of like, artificial extensions to keep it going. But at the end of the day, My Hero as a series will end. That doesn't mean it won't stay popular. People still love things like Naruto, Bleach, all these other shows that have long gone, but are still in the public consciousness.
Aren't both of those still going?
Naruto and Bleach both ended. Bleach is actually coming back.
That's what I'm saying.
Boruto.
You got Shippuden, you got Boruto.
You don't count that. but Bleach is actually coming back and animating one of the arcs they didn't get to way back when, and I'm really excited because I love Bleach.
Cool.
Anyway, so My Hero is going to end, but it's still going to be relatively popular for at least a certain amount of time. Other thing you have to consider is how many of the people that came for My Hero are going to stay for Universes. I feel like that's going to determine a lot, and your answer is basically depending on how pessimistic or optimistic you are. Granted, I think a lot of people are here, and this isn't, again, disparaging or negative. A lot of people are here because it's My Hero, and that's fine. It's a popular IP. A lot of people like it. So a lot of those people will most likely not stay when it's no longer just My Hero, and that's fine, right? So here's the thing. Like you said, what do you do from there? People love pointing this out to me, and listen, I've been in the FGC since 2009.
Fighting game community.
Yes. Earlier, if you count just like personally liking those kind of games, but I've been in the community since then. I, of all people, understand that fighting games are niche. There are a couple IPs, your Street Fighter, your Mortal Kombat, that kind of go beyond that scope that, Joe Sixpack also has heard of and likes. I remember playing that in the Pizza Palace, when I was 6 or whatever, stuff like that. So those have a little more cultural cachet than other things. So I understand that fighting games cannot carry Universes forever. My thing is, I don't want them to abandon them entirely. I'm sorry if I'm taking up too much time, Dan. You can interject if you want. But so I know that it cannot survive on fighting games alone. But if you look at the rules of the game, it is designed from the beginning and still is. It is a card game version of a fighting game. That's why we have high, mids, and lows, speed and damage, counters, well, not yet anyway, but reversals, things like that. So it is at its core a fighting game. And that's what first attracted me to it, because that's where I come from. That's where I make my home. So I don't want to see fighting games go away forever. If they can do smaller sets, or even if it's just relegated to like DLC packs like they did in the past. If there was like a Street Fighter 6 DLC set and not a booster pack, I would be totally okay with that. That sounds awesome, right? But I think what you said earlier specifically is that you need to keep catering to that kind of anime audience. And something like Demon Slayer is a perfect example of something that can get that attention that My Hero has. And I think another thing that helped UFS/Universes maintain its player base is that it appealed to what I call the Toonami generation. That's why things like Cowboy Bebop and, appealed to people that are our age that grew up watching anime when it first started coming to America. So I think the smart thing to do when My Hero eventually does end is to get more anime properties, keep those nostalgic properties, but also don't forget about the fighting games. Don't forget of where you started, right? It's not going to make you the most money, You still got to have it there a little bit.
Yeah, I have a really hard time arguing with that general sentiment. I'm probably pretty close to you in my thought about what should happen next. I think that the one thing that if you're Jasco that you have to be thinking right now, thinking about the most right now, when you're thinking about the future, is how do we make sure we don't pull the rug with our player base? Because what you don't want to do is get a whole bunch of people invested in My Hero Academia card game and then just go, it's over now. Time for a Street Fighter or so. Like, even Street Fighter is popular, but you could, how about like, I don't know, it's over now. Time for Soul Calibur. I actually like Soul Calibur more than Street Fighter personally. I don't know why. I played it as a kid more than I did Street Fighter. So
it's over now. Time for Blaze Blue.
There we go. Thank you. Yeah, I needed you to fill in something that was kind of obscure that I've heard of only a little bit. Yeah, as soon as that happens, you're gonna have a bunch of players who are feeling kind of left out. The thing that I think is really, really tricky about this, and this is something I haven't really prepared exactly how to put this sentiment into words. But I feel like there's a transference that happens much more easily between anime properties for someone. Someone can be a fan of Dragon Ball Z, like whatever, and then they can start watching Naruto and go, yeah, I get why I like this. Like yeah, I get it. And they can start to transfer a little bit. I think it's actually pretty similar now that I'm thinking about it to what you see just in like becoming a board game fan or something. You'll start off playing
the rabbit hole.
You start playing Catan and you're like, oh yeah, this is cool. Yeah, whatever. I like this. And then your friend will show you something just like a little bit more complicated. And you'd be like, I don't know. Oh, but this thing's kind of like Catan. I like that part of it. And then you start playing, like, yeah, actually, this is pretty cool. And then it just starts to like escalate until like, so you're like, Twilight Imperium? That's easy. I don't need to worry about that.
I think card games in general are like that too.
Yeah. I mean, I think it happens in any game or any sort of thing that has just this like wider hobby that you can get into. You'll start to find there's a transference as you start in one end and then you start to realize, I like these elements, and maybe you started out being scared or not liking some certain element, but then it warmed up to you, and it was easier to warm up to you because you liked these other things about it already, and the thing that I think is going to be a problem is that fighting games are just different than anime. It sounds like the dumbest thing in the world to say. Here's the news flash for this podcast. Fighting games are different than anime. That's the headline. But they have a different sensibility, especially if you're talking about like stuff like Mortal Kombat. Like Street Fighter, I think we've talked about this a little bit. Street Fighter is kind of a weeby fighting game, like a little bit, not as weeby as like Guilty Gear or something, right? But like,
I mean, there's an entire subgenre of fighting games called anime fighting games, right?
Yeah, but even like Street Fighter being one of the like mainline ones, its character designs are distinctly a little more Japanese and yeah, cartoony and that kind of stuff. And whereas Mortal Kombat is like just a different thing. So if what you did was you finished My Hero and went, next set is Mortal Kombat, you would have a bunch of people who were playing My Hero and go, well, I like the game. And they start looking at the set and go, I just don't like see the thread, Demon Slayer. I don't see the thread. I don't get what's like, what I'm going to follow to get into this exactly. And I think that would feel like a big rug pull to some people who just like maybe not into, the gore and stuff that's in Mortal Kombat.
Right. I think it needs to be more of a general transition. This is going to sound like a weird analogy, but for anyone who's ever had a pet, like a dog or a cat, when you start having to give them a new food, what the vet always tells you to do is you put a little bit of the new food in with their old food, and you slowly start replacing the old food until they're eating the new food and they don't even realize it, right? So you're right. Going from My Hero to something like Mortal Kombat would not be a smart move. But going from My Hero to Demon Slayer or to something like that, and then you start sprinkling in like, oh, here's the Street Fighter DLC set. Here's a little mini Cowboy Bebop set. And then that transition feels a lot easier, and it's a lot easier to swallow for the people that started with My Hero. And I think great example of this is a game that we mentioned a little while ago, Weiss Schwarz. Weiss Schwartz's biggest appeal is that it's a multi-IP game, and so is Universus, technically, right? And people who like the certain IP usually stick with that IP. But the difference is that there's less people playing Weiss Schwarz, right? So, like, if Weiss all of a sudden said, hey, we're only going to be a Sword Art Online game because, you know, they've had a million Sword Art Online sets. That may be good in the short term because Sword Art Online is really popular and a lot of people like it. I don't know why, but they do. But then that would all of a sudden, all these other people that want it for those other IPs will just fall completely off board.
I think there's a trick with Weiss, though, and that is that Weiss is, or Weiss, I go back and forth between how I say it, German or not. But
I've heard it both ways.
Yeah. The issue with that game that makes it kind of a tricky comparison is that and someone can correct me if I'm wrong here, but the main format for that game is you don't mix your IPs together.
No.
So you can get into Weiss because you like HoloLive, and you only have to buy new cards for your deck when another HoloLive set comes out, right? And importantly, your deck isn't depowered because you're choosing not to use cards from the Star Wars expansion or something. It would only be depowered if the Star Wars deck was objectively better than your HoloLive deck. And
it's usually what happens in Weiss.
Well, okay. All right. We'll just go ahead and sure. Maybe that is the case.
It's not a perfect one-to-one analogy, but you see what I mean about like multi-IP games.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
You have to slowly drip feed. You're right. You can't just pull out the rug. You have to make it an easier transition because Universus is at this point now where that's something they have to consider. Back then, they didn't have to worry about that. It's like, yeah, we'll do another Street Fighter set, whatever. But now it's a concern because there are so many people playing.
I think the prior player base was definitely one that you only got into it because if you were okay with fighting game stuff. You know, if you were like, you either liked the fighting game aesthetics and IPs and stuff, or you tolerated them and you liked the game. You know, there's like one of the two, and Universus is such a good game that it was actually quite easy for me, who was not a fighting game fan, to like, I saw that My Hero was coming, like, okay, I'll learn the game. And I'm like, wow, this game is really fun. I'll play right now, even though I really don't care about who Gil is or whatever.
And like, this is a good point because that brings up such a huge advantage that Universus does have. And obviously this is objective because we both like the game, but Universus is a really good game and its system is built in a way where you can use so many different IPs and it works. That's why shonen anime is so good for the Universus system. It just translates naturally. So that's another thing to consider that should be taken advantage of. We have this really good game. We can use that to our advantage.
Now,
but
go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead and finish.
No, I was going to say that I think at the end of the day, the reality of it is when it does happen, some people are going to leave, and you just have to accept that at a certain point. You try to keep as many as you can, but I feel like it's inevitable that some people are just going to leave because the word My Hero isn't on it.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to happen. I mean, I totally agree with you. I think there's okay. I have two different things I want to talk about. The first one is that we haven't broached the format. We haven't broached the topic at all of formats. And one thing that just like this conversation would be missing a huge chunk if we didn't talk about the fact that Jasco is in full control over how they advertise and what formats how they advertise their formats and what formats they allow people to play. It's quite possible that My Hero Only continues to be a format for a decade, you know, whatever. The only thing is, of course, eventually without an infusion of new content, it gets a little stale and old, right? So we don't know what they're doing again. So if maybe their plan is it's My Hero Only until Demon Slayer comes out, then it's Demon Slayer only, you know, like, and maybe they just continue to do like hard resets every so often. I don't think that's the play, but maybe they do.
I don't think so either. Cause then you're in the Weiss situation.
Yeah. But like, maybe it's the Weiss situation. Maybe it's, you can continue to play your My Hero deck against Demon Slayer only decks. or something, you know,
Chrono Clash,
or yeah, it's the Chrono Clash. Yeah, exactly. Just like that. Right. The game that died so Digimon could live.
Right. And we're better off for it. But
yeah,
anyway.
Probably. You know, but like, I just wanted the audience to also be thinking, you know, and not realizing that we aren't thinking about that too, but like, there are certainly ways to push formats. Another thing I've heard is whenever they bring back the standard format, which in Universus was the mixing of the most recent 10 sets or whatever, whenever they bring back standard at last, I personally think when they do, it's going to be My Hero forward, and your sets before are going to be turned into a modern format or something where it's just like from this set forward, never rotating. Whatever. It could be from Street Fighter 30th forward and then never rotates or something. Or whatever. And so they certainly could design things so that all these cards continue to be playable, and then have whatever the anime du jour or the whatever that they
flavor
want
of the month.
Yep, can be their like their main format that Funimation gives them the buku bucks to advertise or whatever.
Right. I also think that like part of the fun of Universus is being able to combine those cards. And I think losing that would hurt the game a lot. I
totally agree with you. I actually, I'm the kind of person who, when I have the ability to mix things, it makes, maybe this is like the slight autistic brain coming out in me or something. But when I can build a deck in Magic or whatever, and he uses cards from as many different universes as possible in Magic, it feels better to me. When I was developing and playing Metacross, if I was able to use cards from Justice League, Green Lantern, Attack on Titan, and Batman in my deck, it felt like a cooler deck to me, because it was like I found all these disparate pieces and I was able to puzzle together something that is like, my favorite thing in that game was my Attack on Titan deck. It was Titan focused, but the linchpin to the deck was Bane from Batman. And I got such a kick out of that, being like, and people were really surprised by it too. They're like, wow, like that's a really effective MP engine. And like, yep.
There's a fun and a novelty in being like, oh, my Mega Man's going to do a Shoryuken. You know what I mean? My Spike Spiegel's going to throw a Hadoken. You know, that's part of the fun.
I'm glad you didn't say my Mega Man. Oh no, it's Mega. I was gonna make a joke about Mega Man doing Hadoken because he does in Mega Man X, but they never made Mega Man X. Yeah, no, you were on top of it. I was behind. All right. Good job, Kevin. But yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that, and I think your idea of like drip feeding DLCs with fighting games or something to test the waters and everything, not a bad one. But I want to come to just one kind of concept and put it out there for people to mull over. And I'd actually really interested to hear what the audience thinks. So I would love to hear you guys' comments down below, like what you think is going to happen with Universus going forward once we're all said and done here and you've heard us out. So you made a comment earlier that I've been waiting patiently to not pounce on, but to discuss, because I think this is a really interesting point of view to think about. You said the game is built like a fighting game. And there's no arguing that. Like 100%. I'm not going to say that you're wrong, but you're not. Totally is built like a fighting game. However, name an anime that hasn't had a fighting game made of it. Dragon Ball
hasn't?
Yeah, that hasn't. Dragon Ball FighterZ, Naruto, My Hero Academia, Attack on Titan. I'm pretty sure had one, I think, or something. No, they had like an open world type, like whatever play. I don't think Attack on Titan had one.
So the North Star, Yu Yu Hakusho, Hunter x Hunter, basically any shonen.
So my point is that the Universus is built like a fighting game, definitely, but also the fighting game system already just builds into how animes work. When people want to play any game version of them, they already, like, the first thing they do is like, well, let's make a fighting game. Like, it's like the obvious thing to do, to the point where
that's why shonens work so well in it.
Yep. But it's to the point where, just to like take your point and just kind of twist it to a slightly different perspective. Why would you need to go back to Street Fighter as your IP when all your IPs already fit the glove of a fighting game and they're more popular? You know, that's the thing I want just the audience and Kevin here to think about, because we already just naturally make anime into fighting games. And this is just, I think this is the point where, and again, like when I tell people, like, oh yeah, My Hero's been around since it was UFS back in 2000, whatever Kevin tells me is when it came out. And they're surprised because they just played My Hero and they thought, oh, cool game. Like, yeah, this makes sense. Like it feels fine to them, despite the fact that it uses a bunch of fighting game specific terminology, because it works, I think that's interesting.
You are right. And you succeeded in making me feel sad about it, but
I'm sorry.
That's there. One thing I think that something like a Street Fighter does that does have an advantage over something that you might call a flavor of the month anime is that something like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, even Tekken, King of Fighters, those are evergreen. They may take a while, but there is almost always going to be a new game eventually. There's going to be a Street Fighter 6, there's going to be a Street Fighter 7, there's going to be a Mortal Kombat 12, there's going to be a Tekken 8. Hopefully there's a King of Fighters 16. SNK, you never know. But
isn't SNK owned by like Saudi Arabia now or something?
Let's not talk about it.
We'll skip that conversation.
That is one of the advantages that some of those properties do have, which also brings up another thing that I should have mentioned before is, you can also transfer more into other video games, right? Something like, and again, I'm just spitballing here for ideas and stuff. Nier Automata set, or just, some other kind of, fun, popular game that people like. And exactly. And you can also do something like I have been wishing for, like, if I had my 7 Dragon Balls, it would be like, what about a Sailor Moon set? What about a Kamen Rider set? What about a Super Sentai set?
I want Sailor Moon. I want it
I've been saying it for years,
so badly. Like, it would be cool. It would be like legitimately awesome. Or well, we're just going to go ahead and indulge our baseless wild speculation.
Right.
This is totally never going to happen. But how about Castlevania? How many cool characters exist in Castlevania? Like, and it would be, I mean, that'd be just so dope.
Bring the pixel art promos back. I miss those.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So, okay.
But
there are, go ahead. Yeah. I mean, I think you're going to say what I'm going to say. You just say it.
It does go to what you were saying. It's like, no, you don't need fighting games because the system is so versatile. It's so universal that you can really put anything you want into it. And I think that's something they need to take advantage of.
Yeah. And I mean, I really hope they do. But, and I think if they do, sprinkling in those DLCs, trying stuff out, like grab, maybe they have a smaller video game or whatever and just toss it in as a DLC and see how people react to it. It's they can actually, one thing I wonder about is especially with Secret Lairs and everything right now, like print on demand is becoming functional, more so than it ever was in the past. Hey, if Jasco can work that out, that's an option.
Well, yeah. If Jasco did like a Street Fighter 6, like Secret Lair style thing, shut up and take my money. 100%. And
then they just, they don't, basically it's as long as you get the infrastructure set up, from what I understand, as long as you get the infrastructure set up, it's a minimized risk. It's almost no risk to you. It's just, you get everything set up and then you print exactly how many you need and you ship them out. And it takes a year to get your stuff or whatever. But like, it then allows them to look at, okay, how did Street Fighter do? How did Street Fighter 6 do? Oh, we actually got a lot of orders and now a lot of people own Ken and Ryu and everything. And that means they might actually just buy into a full booster set and we can try making that.
And it doesn't hurt that Street Fighter 6 is probably going to launch well this time.
Hey, don't jinx it. Don't jinx the Street Fighter series. It doesn't need it.
If anyone is on pins and needles about it, it's me. I'm actually going to play it next week.
Ooh, exciting. Well, you have to report back. Tell us how it is. But yeah, I always feel like I'm not sure what kind of point we come to in these conversations, but I like to think that it's just a lot of food for thought for people. I think I am going to make sure I end on like a solid opinion from both of us. Here's my opinion, and I haven't fully expressed this. I think that fighting games, I think they could be something that comes back. And I think for some of the much smaller group of enfranchised players from the past. Oh, I didn't get to make my main point, which I'm going to make in here, that from what conversation we had in the past, which is that the players who were in the game initially, who are playing My Hero now, are ones who have weathered the storm of possibly getting an IP that they don't care about, and just dealing with it. And they went through Seventh Cross, and they went through Cowboy Bebop, and they went through Mega Man, and maybe they didn't like that, and they went through Yu Yu Hakusho, and now they went through My Hero Academia. For those players, and God bless them, it doesn't really matter what the next IP is. I hope they love it. Obviously, I'm not saying like your opinion doesn't matter at all. I hope you guys get something you're excited about. But if you're talking about, we might lose some of the old players, those ones who made it through all of these probably don't really care what the next IP is. They just love the game, and they're just going to play it. So should we print fighting games to appeal to the people who have weathered the storm so far and have gotten into My Hero? My personal opinion, I don't think you would need to. And if you're in Jasko's position, Funimation's position, whoever's pulling the strings, you're thinking about the bottom line, and you might be thinking about how much more money you make by going into something that has more transferability from My Hero Academia instead. Now, I don't think your idea is bad. I don't think the DLC idea is bad. I don't think print on demand is out of the question or anything. And I would, if they print Street Fighter 6 as the next set, I'm still playing the game probably. Because it's, I had to say probably though. That's the indication like that instinctively came out. But it's a great game. So I'm definitely going to look at it no matter what. I'm not going to be like Street Fighter, I'm out. But if I were in their position, I wouldn't be worrying too much about it, about fighting games. I would be thinking about them a little bit, but I'd be like, what's the next anime? Like, what's the next thing that I can transfer these players into that they'll still like? That would be my priority. And that's what I think they should do then from my perspective. Am I right or wrong? Let me know in the comments. But Kevin, what do you think? What's your final thoughts? Final opinion, final word?
I think, like you said, like I said at the beginning, fighting games are niche. I understand this, and that's obviously not their top priority. But I do think that what I feel is the best way moving forward is, like you said, what's the next big thing they can get that can kind of link that thread between My Hero to something else, and then slowly start, implementing more things over time. You have a multi-IP game, use that to your advantage. Have the big new anime, have the nostalgic anime, have the little bit of the video game thing for the older people that have been playing for a long time. You have the advantage of not having to commit to one thing, so don't.
I mean, that's very succinctly said, and I definitely am not in my vision for the future. I'm not taking full advantage of that like yours is. So, yeah, with that, I mean, I think that's a good set of thoughts. And I think that's like I said, some good food for thought for people just to think about and look forward to it. If you haven't played Universus yet, maybe this got you a little intrigued, and you definitely should check out. There's some incredible how to plays from the community. I intend to make one at some point, but I just got out of a 2 or 3 week sprint of making our Grand Archive how to play, and it took every ounce of my free time, and I'm so exhausted from that. So My Hero is probably next on my list to make, but yeah, it's going to take a little bit. So I can't unfortunately link you to a cool main deck video on that.
And I still plan on making that Beginner's Guide to Wixoss article.
I would love to see it. Yeah,
that'll be out soon.
Yeah, that'd be fun to post. Please. But yeah, if you guys have any thoughts about the future of Universus, whether you're an franchise player or you just heard about it and you want to toss your 2 cents into the arena of opinion, that is our comment section down below, then please let us know what you think. I'm just curious. If you did enjoy our podcast episode today and you're watching on YouTube, because we do have a number of audio only listeners, by the way, shout out to the cool audio only listeners who can't see my facial expressions to things Kevin says. But you guys are so cool. Shout outs to them. But if you're on YouTube, give us the like down below if you did enjoy this. Would really appreciate that. We just passed 750 subs, which I'm excited about. We are on the road to 1K, and we are going to continue to grow from there. We ain't stopping, because cardboard rectangles are life at this point. Like what else is there? Other than
our relationship with shiny cardboard is complicated.
It's not complicated. I've just devoted my life to it. It's simple. It's all done. It's already all out there. But yeah, really appreciate everything you guys can do to help us reach those goals. We really do appreciate you, and appreciate you for watching and appreciate your comments and all that kind of stuff. So with that said, guys, I've been Dan. This has been Kevin. As always, we've had a wonderful conversation like we always do. I got to keep getting Kevin on more often because I always have so much fun.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. And that's going to do it for today's episode of the Maindeck Podcast. And come back next time for another episode that we haven't even planned yet.
Hey, everybody.
See you guys.